Let's talk a little bit about something that's going to help you hear and recognize God's voice in your life. Hey, I'm Father Mark Mary with Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and this is Ascension Presents. And some of my work as a spiritual director and some of my work as one in spiritual direction and formation, one of the principles I've been more and more convicted of is this: God speaks consistently but uniquely in each of our lives. I don't know if you've seen this, some of the like professional athletes, basketball players, they might have like a special handshake with like each person on the team. So it's like with each of them, there's a handshake, but the particular handshake is going to be unique for each of them. And this is somewhat an expression of their personal relationship. It's a poor analogy, but in some ways this is true, is that like God is consistent, and he's going to be consistent in the world. He's going to be consistent in our lives. But the way in which he is consistent towards me and towards you might be, and probably is going to be, it's going to be personalized. And it's going to be somewhat unique from how he speaks and acts and works through your neighbor. This is part of where we can get in trouble with like comparison, is that, well, God's doing this in that person's life, but he's not doing that in my life, and I can sort of feel sad or envious or jealous. It's like, well, no, because God does act uniquely in each of our lives. Another way of like saying that God works like consistently but uniquely is there's going to be a pattern. There's going to be a pattern to how God works and how God speaks in my life and in your life. And part of prayer, part of journaling, part of regular confession, part of spiritual direction is trying to discern like the voice of God by discerning this pattern, trying to discern how God works and he acts through your personal life, through prayer and through observation and through, if you will, like taking notes of what happens and how it happens and the fruit of it. God is speaking, God is at work, God is present and active in your life, and in a way in which is discernible and distinguishable. So this is the really good news, but we have to pay attention, and we have to be praying, and we have to be paying attention, and we have to see like what the fruits of things are, and in helpful and healthy ways to maybe talk about this with other people so that we can discern this pattern and really kind of like experience the personal love of God, but also be more receptive to his guidance and his work. Part of this is like plays into how we understand charisms, God's particular work in unique people or unique groups. Part of this is also like unique spiritualities, is that there's ways in which God has invited us to be focused or to pray that might be different from other people. But even within those who have like a Franciscan spirituality, God's going to speak and act in a different way. So for example, we can pay attention to like, in my prayer life, is there like a great vibrancy and a fruitfulness to like imaginative prayer, sort of like this Ignatian prayer? It's so awesome. Like really dive deep into that. Does God speak to you a lot? Like do you really experience God through study? There are some people who read, like the Summa, Aquinas' Summa, and they just experience God and his presence and his goodness. Like awesome. If that's true, like dedicate more of your time if you can to study. If it's through praying of the rosary, if there's something particular with scriptures, if it's like in holy hour and adoration, all of this stuff, like, yeah, let's pay attention to the different ways in which like these particular forms of prayer like move me and resonate with me, and God speaks to me. For some people, like God really profoundly speaks just in quiet in the chapel. For some people, it's kind of on the road. It's doing different work. It's through other people. And I do believe that, I guess, some of the way in which God is speaking uniquely into our lives, it could be like maybe seasonally as opposed to sort of like evergreen always. But I do think I do think there are patterns, and there is consistency and uniqueness, and that it's not going to change very frequently or too quickly. And so we do want to just really pay attention to and seek to find these ways in which God speaks and be open to it. A couple of examples from my own life. This thing started happening when I was like 18 or 19, where like Our Lady of Guadalupe, the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe started showing up like all these random places. And it was through like, it was like bumper stickers. It was through like a scene in a movie. It was on somebody's t-shirt. It was like a tattoo. It was an image on the wall. And it was like the only image on this wall. And part of like what this came to like mean to me was this was like God would send these like images of Our Lady of Guadalupe as a way of saying that like I was where I was supposed to be. It didn't like totally transform and change like every decision I made, but it would happen, it would show up. And it was just God's like a little way of saying like, hey, yeah, This is a good thing. This is good for you to be here. I'm here with you. And this was kind of happening, and it kind of took on this meaning as I discerned it. And eventually, you know, like as I was coming to the friars, like our patroness is Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so for a number of years, this was happening. And then, you know, I come to the friars in the friary where each of our chapels has an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And it wasn't that it didn't make up all of my discernment, but there is this little way that like as long as I'm a friar, like I'm always where I'm supposed to be, because in our chapels, it's always like Our Lady. Or now these days, like in speaking, what God is having happen is like one person will come up after some talk and say like, that was the exact thing I needed to hear. Like, this is what I was praying about, this is what God was saying, and that homily, like that image, that story was the exact thing I needed to hear. And I've had this where like I read a letter from a book of like a cardinal to someone who just lost their dad, and somebody in the congregation who just lost their dad, and I was like, this was just like so consoling and encouraging, and this is exactly what I needed to hear. So now like when I'm giving a talk or something like that, I'm not like too worried about like how did it go, or like did I do a good job, blah blah blah, this and that. I'm like, but like did I say what God wanted to say? How I get my encouragement, my confirmation is just waiting for someone to come and like give this sort of feedback. And if that's the only feedback I get, like I don't care if it didn't resonate with everybody else. Like, okay, I said what God wanted me to say. And so just the encouragement is with this, is like, okay, so what is God saying? What is God doing? Can I pay attention? Can I recognize it? And then can I follow it? So maybe there's like, again, types of prayer, or maybe there's a focus within prayer. Maybe it's a season to experience like Jesus's like sonship with the Father. Maybe it's a season to really go deep with the Holy Spirit. Maybe it's the season to experience God's fatherhood, and then perhaps make that present through your own sort of work. Maybe it's a Marian season. And so just like to pay attention and see what God's doing, to pay attention to the movements of your heart, and to give the Lord an opportunity to reveal his particular like unique work in your life as a particular experience of his like unique personal love and care and mission and plan and even voice for you. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining me, for listening, for praying with me. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you again next week. Remember, we are pilgrims on this earth. Somos peregrinos poco a poco, little by little. Vamos a llegar. We're going to make it. God bless y'all.